For a moment, everything felt perfect, like the celebration I had always dreamed of. Then, as I leaned in to hug my sister, I felt her lips brush against my ear. Her voice was so soft, no one else could hear it. "You'll be a terrible mother." The words sliced through the music and chatter like glass shattering on tile. I froze, still holding her hand, my smile plastered on for the crowd, while my heart dropped into my stomach. Had I heard her right? My own sister, on the happiest day of my life? I pulled back, searching her face for a sign, but she just smirked, as if she knew she had planted a seed of doubt that would never leave me. And in that instant, the balloons, the cake, the laughter, none of it mattered anymore. Because her whisper wasn't just cruel. It was the beginning of something much worse. Before I explain how my baby shower turned into heartbreak, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss stories like this one. My sister and I were never the kind of siblings who shared secrets under the covers or borrowed each other's clothes. Growing up, she was always the star, the one who drew attention the moment she walked into a room. I was the quieter one, the good girl who blended into the background. At family gatherings, she had a way of making everything about her. If I came home with an A on a test, she'd roll her eyes and casually mention she'd already aced the same class the year before. If I got a compliment, she somehow twisted it into a comparison that left me feeling smaller. But I thought things had changed as we grew older. When I got engaged, she smiled through the speeches, though her eyes never quite matched her words. And when I announced my pregnancy, she hugged me, but her grip felt just a little too tight, almost like she was holding something back. I told myself I was overthinking it. That deep down, she was happy for me. After all, wasn't becoming an aunt supposed to bring us closer? That's why her words at the baby shower cut so deep. They weren't just casual cruelty. They were years of rivalry, jealousy, and unspoken resentment finally breaking the surface. And the worst part? A small voice inside me wondered if she was right. The day of my baby shower was like a picture ripped straight from a magazine. Pink and gold balloons floated above the tables, soft music played in the background, and the smell of freshly baked pastries filled the air. My friends laughed as they passed around diaper cakes and baby toys, while my mom snapped photos of every little detail. For the first time in months, I felt like I could finally breathe and simply enjoy the moment. I wore a pale blue dress that hugged my growing belly, and my fiancé never left my side. People kept telling me how radiant I looked, how this was the glow of motherhood. Their words made me smile, but every time my eyes drifted across the room, they landed on her. My sister. She stood near the back, arms crossed, a half-smile plastered on her face. To everyone else, she looked like just another guest soaking in the celebration. But I knew better. Her smile never touched her eyes. Every toast, every gift, every laugh seemed to make her jaw tighten just a little more. When my best friend announced a game to guess the baby's birth date, I caught my sister rolling her eyes. And when my mother placed her hand on my shoulder proudly, I swore I saw my sister's expression harden, almost like pride for me was an insult to her. Something was building behind that mask. I just didn't realize how sharp it would cut when it finally came out. It happened so quickly that if not for the way my heart clenched, I might have convinced myself I imagined it. I was standing near the cake, balancing a plate in one hand, when my sister came over to hug me. To everyone watching, it looked like a sweet, supportive moment between siblings. Cameras flashed, my mom clapped her hands, and guests smiled warmly. But beneath that picture-perfect scene, her lips brushed against my ear. "You'll be a terrible mother." I froze. My entire body went cold. The laughter, the music, the sound of wrapping paper tearing, it all faded into a dull hum. I forced myself to keep smiling, to keep my shoulders relaxed, but inside, everything was crumbling. Was she serious? Was it a cruel joke? My mind spun, searching for an explanation, a reason. But when I pulled back and looked at her, she was already sipping her drink, her expression unreadable except for the faintest trace of satisfaction in her eyes. My chest tightened. Anger burned hot in my throat, but shame quickly smothered it. What if she was right? What if I wasn't ready, wasn't good enough? The fear I'd buried so carefully came rushing back all at once, and now her whisper had given it a voice. I wanted to scream, to confront her right there in front of everyone. But all I could do was laugh weakly at a joke someone else cracked, while my heart splintered inside my chest. No one else noticed. To them, the party went on. But to me, that whisper changed everything. And in the days that followed, I would learn that her words were only the tip of something far deeper, and far darker. That night, after the last guest had left and the leftover cake sat untouched on the counter, the silence in the house felt heavier than the balloons still drifting against the ceiling. My fiancé loaded dishes into the sink, humming softly, but my mind wasn't on the party anymore. It was stuck on her words, echoing, replaying, gnawing at me. Finally, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I grabbed my phone and called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice flat. What? I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Why would you say that to me? At my baby's shower? You'll be a terrible mother? Do you have any idea what that did to me? There was a pause, and then a sharp laugh. Oh, so now you want to talk about feelings? You've always had everything handed to you. The attention, the praise. And now you're having a baby, and guess who gets shoved into the background again? Me. Her words stung, but more than that, they revealed something I hadn't wanted to see. This wasn't about the baby shower. This was about years of resentment that had been simmering beneath the surface. You think I don't notice? She continued, her voice trembling now, more with bitterness than with rage. Mom looks at you like you hung the moon. You get the perfect fiancé, the perfect pregnancy, the perfect life. And me? I'm just the extra. I pressed the phone tighter against my ear, my heart aching. You're my sister. I never wanted you to feel like that. Why couldn't you just tell me? Because you wouldn't understand, she snapped. You've never been second best. Not once. Tears slid down my cheeks, hot and unrelenting. I had braced myself for cruelty, but what I heard instead was pain, twisted, ugly, but pain all the same. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about one cruel whisper. It was about years of unspoken rivalry that had finally spilled over. But knowing that didn't make her words hurt any less. Have you ever had someone you love cut you deeper than a stranger ever could? That's how I felt in that moment. If you've ever been through something similar, hit the like button, it lets me know I'm not alone. And don't forget to subscribe, so you don't miss the rest of this story, because what happened next changed everything. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cold cup of tea. My fiancé joined me, placing his hand gently over mine. You didn't sleep, did you? He asked softly. I shook my head. Her words, they won't leave me. And when I confronted her, it wasn't just cruelty. It was something else. Something deeper. He squeezed my hand. She's hurting. That doesn't excuse it, but jealousy usually hides pain. Later that day, I found myself talking to my mom. She was folding tiny baby clothes, her face glowing with excitement, when I finally broke down. Mom, why does she hate me so much? Her hand stilled. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. It's not hate, sweetheart. It's fear. Your sister has always struggled with feeling overlooked. She wanted a family before you, but things didn't work out. She doesn't know how to deal with seeing you have what she's still waiting for. My chest tightened. The anger I had carried all night began to soften, replaced by something harder to hold, empathy. For the first time, I saw not just the sharpness of her words, but the wound behind them. She should have just told me, I whispered. Mom's eyes glistened. Sometimes people lash out when they can't admit what's really hurting them. I sat in silence, the truth sinking in. Her whisper had cut me deeply, but maybe, just maybe, it was also a cry from her own brokenness. And that realization didn't erase the pain. But it began to change the way I carried it. A week later, my sister and I finally met again. It wasn't planned, we bumped into each other at our mother's house. For a moment, the air was thick with everything left unsaid. She avoided my eyes, fiddling with her phone as if she could disappear into it. I could have stayed silent. I could have let the bitterness build higher walls between us. But instead, I spoke. What you said to me that day, it broke me. But I think it came from your own pain, not mine. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, with something softer, regret, maybe, or shame. She didn't apologize, not fully. She just whispered, "You'll understand one day," before walking away. It wasn't the reconciliation I had hoped for. But it was real. It was honest. And it was enough for me to stop carrying her bitterness on my shoulders. Because in the end, her words didn't define me. They didn't determine the kind of mother I would be. Her words tried to break me, but instead, they made me stronger. And now, as I hold on to the life growing inside me, I know this truth: sometimes the people closest to us wound us out of their own hurt. But we don't have to let their pain become our story. If you've ever faced betrayal from someone you love, know this: you are stronger than their words.